Hi, hello, it's me, Julian Greystoke and Nigel, and we are here again to film a book review. Yay! I went with gray lipstick today. I haven't worn this in a while and I kind of like it. Today we're doing a book review for a book that I just finished, so I haven't even written any notes about it. I literally just finished listening to it earlier today. So I was like, let's just sit down and see if I can remember all of the things I wanted to talk about, because this one is weird. It's really, it's not what I normally read. You never realize how dirty your glasses are until you sit down to film, and then it's just like, wow. By the way, if you hear my dryer in the background, yeah, good job, that's my dryer. Hi, welcome. We have house noises here, and we don't pretend that houses don't have noises in them. So the book that we're talking about today is called Kill the Father, and it was actually a suggestion from one of my viewers on my channel. On a previous thriller video, I had asked for more thriller recommendations, and this person was like, this is pretty different from what you normally read, but I really liked the characters, and I read all 3 books for the characters and was sad when I had to stop because of them. And I was like, well, as soon as you tell me something has great characters, I'm like, you know what, I can forgive a lot of stuff if I like the characters. And for the most part, that kind of held true with this book, but before we get started, let's read the blurb. The only one who can stop him is the one who got away. Dante Torre spent 11 young years in captivity, held by a man known only as the Father, before outwitting his abductor. Now, working with the police force, Torre's methods are unorthodox, but his brilliance is clear. When a young child goes missing in similar circumstances in Rome, Torre must confront the demons of his past and attempt to solve the case. Paired with Deputy Captain Colomba Caselli, a fierce warrior-like detective still reeling from having survived a bloody catastrophe, all evidence suggests that the Father is still active after being dormant for decades, and that he's looking forward to a reunion with Dante. So, not the kind of thing I normally read. I don't really like detective fiction and this kind of thing. There are 3 books in this series, but I don't really like mystery series. I don't really like crime thrillers. Not really my thing at all. There are so many things about this book that are things that I don't like or that I avoid. Let's see if I can remember all of them. So we've got the fact that it's in a genre I don't normally reach for. The style is very different. It is third-person omniscient narrator, which is something I never reach for. It's translated. I don't really read much translated stuff, not really on purpose. It just doesn't really come under my radar. I'm sure I'll think of more things, but this book is just so different from what I normally read, including the style in which it's written. I definitely, if I wasn't enjoying other aspects of this book, probably would have DNF'd because of the way that it's written, the craft itself. And I don't know whether I can blame the translation or not. That's the problem with a translated book. How many of its failings are translation and how much of it is from the original author? Because if you took out all of the filtering in this book, all of the she felt, he felt, all of that stuff, she thought to herself, all of that, this book would be noticeably shorter. These characters never experienced anything without the felt barrier between us, and the writing style is just very matter-of-fact, very plain, purple prose, who's she, we don't know her. And so I don't know if that's the author's style or the translator's style, and again, it's not a style that I like. It's very telly, it's very straightforward, and I just don't normally reach for that. And usually I would DNF a book that was like that unless I was looking to review it. And yes, I was looking to review this one, but also my viewer was right. I did really like the characters, specifically Dante and Colomba, the main characters. Very interesting. I was invested in them. I was invested in their friendship. Unfortunately, I can't say the same of any of the other characters. I could not keep the other characters straight. I kept forgetting who was who. Because the writing was so straightforward, I was very rarely given descriptors to help me remember who was who. There's so many cops, so many detectives, just so many people in the periphery that don't really get that much personality, that it was too interesting characters wandering around in this world full of flat paper characters. But like I said, the two leads were interesting. I really liked that both Dante and Columba have PTSD and they both have panic attacks for various reasons. It was really interesting. Dante specifically is claustrophobic, which you don't often see of these like recluse detective types. Usually they tend to be agoraphobic. They don't like to go outside. But Dante lives in such a way that he can feel like he's in the open at all times. He has like part of his apartment is just like a sunroom essentially. It's just glass and he sleeps there. That's his bedroom. Even if it's cold in the winter, he doesn't care. Like if he goes to a restaurant, he has to eat on the terrace, you know, so that's really, I really liked those details about him. And also the detail that he's a coffee snob. That's not part of the plot. That's just a thing about him. He's a big old coffee snob. He makes fun of Columba all the time because she just drinks whatever shit water is laying around. And the cops had to like toss his apartment at one point and they mixed all of his coffee beans together and he was so pissed. And I just love details like that about characters. And then there's Columba, who is on medical leave after she was caught in a bombing. So she has like a different kind of PTSD. So you have both of these characters with PTSD and they are working together to solve a missing child case. A child has gone missing and Dante is actually a consulting detective already. He's kind of doing a Sherlock Holmes thing and the Sherlock Holmes vibes are there for sure. Columba has such a Watson vibe to her, and then Dante is very much the Holmes. He's a skinny recluse who solves crimes by like reading people. And so she has to go to him and be like, hey, come solve this crime with me. I really love Columba as well because she is described, what description we get, as she is like a buff, tall, like powerful woman. I kind of got the vibe that she could probably fold Dante in half, and I love that. So yeah, the characters are great. They're struggling constantly with their mental illnesses, especially Dante, because he really can't be indoors, and this investigation kind of needs him to go inside. Them getting to know each other, getting to work together, they're building friendship. I think we might be building towards a romance, but it doesn't get there in this book, and I'm fine with that because I like them as friends. One thing that I didn't love, though, is that this book had some odd moments. There was definitely some ableism, some racism, especially with the stereotypes. Like, I'm sure a lot of crime fiction does this, but I don't read a lot of crime fiction, and this might be one of the reasons. The stereotypes about who is a criminal. This race of people are the criminals in this story. We never get to see any of them who aren't the criminals. And even though they are helpful to our main characters, they're still like...
I struggle for a while for what I'm trying to say, and what I'm looking for is the word stereotype. They are stereotyped because they are a certain race.
So I didn't love that. It was kind of difficult, however, for me to figure out exactly where the ableism was coming from. Like, the racism I could see as potentially just because it's tropes that we're used to seeing in crime fiction. But the ableism was weird. I think it might have been coming from the author because I was like, is it coming from these characters? Both Dante and Columba have mental illnesses. However, their mental illnesses were brought on by bad situations that they were both in their lives. And the treatment of people who have mental illnesses that they're born with is kind of iffy and made me go, And I couldn't tell, because a lot of it could just be Columba and Dante's opinions. But like, they're very understanding and kind to each other when they're having like panic attacks and issues. But they are unkind, talking about people with autism or schizophrenia, stuff like that. And the general tone of the book is that way, so I think it might be coming from the author. This is just a hunch, but I just feel like this author doesn't have a very clear understanding of mental illness. And it's sort of like, well, these people, they have a very real and serious mental illness, and those people are just crazy. You know, the vibe is there, and I picked up on it. What I will say is we have a male author, and I don't think I recall him talking about her boobs even once. Like, there were a couple of times where he maybe mentioned what she was wearing or something like that, or he mentioned that like she could flirt her way out of a situation. but it was never overt, never in your face, never, oh, the author is clearly lusting after his female lead character. None of that. So I do appreciate that we have a man writing women who did a good job. I know we like to make fun of men writing women, and there is that stereotype, but of course men can write women and women can write men. Some people are just really bad at it. The mystery overall was pretty harrowing. There was a lot of action. Anytime like it seemed like the investigation was maybe slowing down, the author would throw an action scene at you. Sometimes from the past. We did have a lengthy minute by minute like minutia description of the bomb blast that Columba was in, and looking back on it I'm like, why? Why? It wasn't like her having a flashback. It was just in there. You know, a couple chapters would go by and then there'd be a part of the description of the explosion that she was in. I will say also, later on, she's caught in another explosion and it doesn't really seem to affect her. And I thought the ball was dropped a little bit there because she does have this whole thing about how she was in this explosion and she's thinking about leaving the police force because of it and all of this stuff. And then she's in another explosion. And it's just like rolls right off her back. It confused me because Dante is very consistent all the way through with his mental illness. He doesn't like have this moment where he suddenly just gets over it and is fine. But she just had that moment where I was like, oh man, this is really gonna affect her. She's been in a second bombing. No, she's fine. Physically not okay. She was injured, but mentally she seems better than before, and it's never really discussed why. There were a couple of false endings where I was like, okay, I think we've got him. We've got the guy, we're wrapping up pretty soon. And then the book was like, ha, nope, you got the wrong guy, keep going. And there were kind of two climaxes where there was like a really climactic moment and it was like ramping back down. And then all of a sudden, oh, climax 2, Electric Boogaloo. And we just went right back into the insanity. So yeah, this book was hard for me to classify, to give a star number 2. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, but really the only thing that kept me going was that I was so interested in the characters and so invested in their friendship. Like, even though it was pretty fast moving and there were a lot of harrowing moments, I was never like, oh my gosh, I need to know, where is the father? What's the mystery? What's the answer to the mystery? I don't know why. I wasn't even really trying to solve it because it's not the sort of mystery that you solve. It's definitely one of those mysteries where it's like if you looked back after you read the book, you probably don't have the clues to have solved it. And that's another way that it's not a kind of book that I like to read. I prefer to be able to solve the mysteries, and this one really isn't that kind of book. Pretty much every element was a fail for me in this book, except the lead characters and their relationship. If you like crime books and you want to follow 2 fairly interesting lead characters and their developing friendship, this might be the book for you, especially if you don't mind pretty bare bones, flawed writing. I will say that the audiobook was pretty good. I enjoyed it. The narrator reading it did a good job with all of the pronunciations and everything, because it does take place in Italy. But those are my thoughts on Kill the Father. There are 2 more books in this series, and I don't know if I'm going to read them. I don't know if I liked these characters enough. I will say that this book, it wrapped up the whole case, and then it gave you a little bit of a teaser at the end. There's a scene at the end where Dante gets a phone call from somebody, and you're like, oh, here we go, leading on to the next mystery, but it wasn't enough to make me be like, I have to read the next one, oh my gosh. So yeah, have you read Kill the Father? Did you like it? What did you think? Comment below and let me know. Does it sound interesting to you? As usual, all the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking. You can check out more book reviews here on my channel, including reviews of several different thrillers that are pretty different from this one, I will grant you, but if you like thrillers, you might want to check out those reviews. And you can follow me on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get exclusive content never seen here on the regular channel. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Gallivant may not believe in you, but I do. I super believe in you, Tad Cooper.
SV, Rita, Thea, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, AC, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Like Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, and Lennox. Thanks for super believing in me, everyone.
And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need.